Yo, what is up guys, Anthony here, back with another Destiny Child video. And in today's video everyone, we're actually going to be going over the graphic up on the screen right now, which is an equipment tier list for your units. So we'll actually be going over all three categories here, which does feature weapon, armors, and accessories, all at A rank stats maxed out to plus 15. So in today's video we won't be going over soul cartas, but maybe in the near future, as I'm planning on updating the soul carta tier list from an old video that I posted a few months back. So this diagram is actually brought to you by the Destiny Child global Reddit, as well as the Destiny Child Discord server. So I'll be sure to show the Reddit post on screen right now. And as you can see, here is the Reddit post from the Destiny Child global Discord, and it is brought to you by Toxic and all of the others who helped put together this graphic for the equipment tier list. And one thing I would like to go over before we get into the equip tier list here is, as you can see here, we have the stats to prioritize by class. So for attacker units, you would want to focus on attack and then agility / critical. For defenders, you want to focus on HP / defense. Next up, we have debuffer units. You want to focus on HP, defense, and agility. For supporter units, you would want to focus on HP, defense, and agility. And as for healer units, you would like to prioritize attack, HP, and crit. So those are all of the stats that you should prioritize by the class of your units. So with that being said, let's get into the diagram now and go over a few of the top tier equips. Alright everyone, so here we are with the diagram again. So I'll be sure to pop up closer screenshots up on the screen for which certain category that we're talking about. So first up, we'll start out here on the left side with the weapons, and of course these are all at A rank and does show the max stats at plus 15. So I'll be going over the top row and maybe a few honorable mentions of the equips, but mainly going over the top tier equips that you should prioritize purchasing in the Devil Rumble shop and leveling up to plus 15. So first up here with the weapons specifically, we have the Passionate Mic here. So it does have a stat of 1709 attack and a stat of 791 agility. Next up here for the weapons, we have a Flask. The Flask has a 1709 attack stat and a 791 critical stat. Next up here we have the Bari's Folding Fan, which has a stat of 1709 attack and a stat of 791 critical, which is tied for the best critical weapon with the Flask currently. Next up here we have the Devil Reward Camera here. This weapon has 1425 attack and 712 crit. Next up here we have the Wings of Loneliness. First up, it has an attack stat of 1425 and a critical stat of 712. So it's tied with the Deviroid Camera. Next up here we have the Limos Trident, which has an attack stat of 1425 and an agility stat of 712. Next up here we have Kei'no Scissors, which does feature a stat of 1425 attack and 712 crit. And last here for the top row, we do have the Legendary Water Gun, which has an attack stat of 1425 and an agility stat of 712. So that is the top row of the weapons specifically. So those are all of the top tier weapons that you should prioritize purchasing. As for the agility and attack weapons and the attack and critical weapons, now there's actually a HP and attack weapon. As you can see here, we have the Spear of Divine Punishment. Now you would probably want to prioritize this weapon specifically on defender units, as they do benefit from the extra HP. Now of course it does totally depend on the unit that you're running, so make sure you do take that into account before leveling up these equips. Next up here everyone, we have the armors. So we'll be starting out here on the top left again. First up here we have the Enamel Suit, which does feature 1329 HP, and then we have a stat of 1160 defense. Next up here we have the Alchemist Gloves, HP stat of 1583 and a defense stat of 907. And last here on the top row we have the Bari's Shawl, which does feature a HP stat of 1266 and a defense stat of 1223. Now those specifically are up on the top row, as they do outclass all of the other equips here, but you could prioritize the following on the second row. probably the first 3 or 4 here, as they do have a decent stat if you don't have much of the top tier equips, as these are pretty hard to come by in the Devil Rumble shop sometimes. And those specifically would be the Limos Bikini here, the Flower Veil, and the Dana's Mitter. Now of course some of these equips do prioritize health over defense, and some of them do prioritize defense over HP, and you would have to take that into account again when basing that on which unit you should prioritize certain equips on. Last up here we have the accessories category. So first up on the top row on the left we have the Alchemy Kit, which does feature a stat of 659 HP and a stat of 477 attack. Next up we have the Bari's Talisman of Solace, which does feature an HP stat of 659 and a defense stat of 477. Next up here we have the first crit accessory featured on the tier list, which are the high res headphones, which does feature an attack stat of 477 and a critical stat of 409. Next up we have the Knight Ornament, which does feature an HP stat of 450 and a defense stat of 392. Next up here we have the Crown of Emptiness, which does feature an HP stat of 450 and an attack stat of 392. Next up here everyone we have the Fresh Blood Choker, which does feature an HP stat of 450 and a critical stat of 352. And last here everyone we have the Bride's Ring, which does feature an HP stat of 450 and a critical stat of 352 to end it off. So those are all of the top tier accessories in the category, so be sure to prioritize any of those top tier accessories based on which units you need them for. So those are all of the top tier weapons, armor, and accessories at A rank specifically. And now here to end off the video we'll be going over the tips here near the bottom. So first up we have the health tab here. It is a character's vitality. When the health reaches 0, the character dies. You will no longer be able to continue fighting. If all characters die with the 0 health, they lose the battle. Next up here we have agility. Increases the skill hit rate and evasion rate. Slightly increases the damage of slide skills and drive skills. It does not affect the hit/miss rate of debuff and a debuff evasion. Next up here in the middle we have attack. Increases all skill damage to enemies. Flat, normal, slide, and drive, and increases recovery. Next up here we have crit, increases the chance of critical strikes and increases drive damage slightly. And the last here we have defense, which reduces skill damage taken. Damage dealt by debuffs is not affected by defense. So overall everyone, those are all of the top tier equips currently as of the month of August 2020. If this video was helpful at all, feel free to leave a comment below, and also make sure to check out the Destiny Child global Discord and the Reddit post in the description below, as this graphic wouldn't be here without them. So a huge thank you to everyone who worked on this. But before you go, make sure to leave a like on this video if you did enjoy, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the Destiny Child content and haven't already done so. Also feel free to check out my YouTube Discord server in the description box below if you would like to hang out in there with everyone in there as well. With all of that being said, I'll see you all in tomorrow's Destiny Child video. Thank you all so much for watching.